Hello, everyone. It's Graham Coath here with another My Music, ready to bring you two more people coming to talk to me all about their music and their experience of music throughout their lives. Today, I'm joined by the wonderful Elk City. First of all, though, this man wants to make sure his laptop is positioned correctly. So let's have a look.
I need to get going, Mel. See you later.
Well, there you go. Not only do I feel sorry for Mel because she's never really actually met up with him, but also he's been eating that piece of toast now for 2 years. And I think it must have gone cold by now. And there's nothing worse than cold, stale toast, is there? As I say, I've been joined by Renee and Ray, R&R, in the studio. Hello. Where are you coming from, folks?
We are in Montclair, New Jersey.
Wow.
About 12 miles outside of New York City.
That's wonderful. And is this is your studio?
Yes.
That you're coming from. Wonderful. I love the decor in there. I love what you've done to the room. And is that curtains in the back I see there, or is that wallpaper?
No, it's actually wood. It's like
wood
fusion. Yeah, it's a proper recording studio where we make our records. And if I could turn the camera around, I would show you the whole live room and everything. But we're in a pretty nice facility here.
It does look like a nice facility, and I love that terminology. It's a proper recording studio. What would be an improper recording studio?
Well, for years I worked out of my house. And recorded. We had a live room in the basement of the house, and then the control room was the living room of the house. And you could make great records. I love home recording like that, and I always did it in a professional capacity, but it just got to be ridiculous having bands come to your house all the time. So I decided to build a commercial studio and have a go at that.
So yeah, I know. I hear you, and you hear about people like Dave Grohl recording in the garage, but then of course his garage was probably huge.
Yes, yeah.
Right. Let's face facts. When Dave Grohl says I'm recording in a garage, how big's your garage? But of course, other people have recorded over the years, as you say. Other people have recorded literally in their bedroom. And some of the, I suppose, most heartfelt albums out there have come from just one person in a bedroom.
Yeah.
I remember many years ago. Do you remember Michelle Shocked with her campfire tapes or whatever?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it was kind of a surprise at the time because, I think that was probably one of the first albums for me where you suddenly heard of someone saying, "Honestly, I'm recording this in a real raw situation."
Exactly.
Yeah. There you go.
I actually mix records for people who do stuff in their bedrooms or in their rehearsal spaces and that sort of thing. And sometimes the recordings are so cool because you would never mic something the way they've done it. They probably had some terrible way of doing it, but you're like, that's the most interesting sound because they didn't quite know what they were doing, or they were dealing with some sort of complication that's the way they had to do it. And you would never do that in a recording studio. And that can be really inspiring and cool. You're like, I love this terrible guitar sound or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. And things end up on records when that happens as well, which would never ever end up on records in the studio unless you'd thought about it in the first place. Right. I can remember a group of us when we were probably 16, I'm going to say, meeting at a friend's house, and I think we had a Tascam 4-track, something like that, and we were just recording with mics in an open. The mics were just pointing into the room. They weren't on anything in particular. And when when we got the main track recording, or the sort of, you know, before we embellished it at all, there was a dog in there. Because there was a skylight open and suddenly this dog was, but it fitted so well.
Yes.
You know, it was like it was
bizarre sounds like that where you're like, you know, oh, we didn't intend that to happen, but then everyone usually falls in love with it. It's
right.
Like, oh,
and then like also it's the type of thing that if you tried to recreate that, you couldn't, or you could try to recreate it, but it would never have the same essence as a mistake.
Yeah.
It wouldn't. It just wouldn't, because you just get, there's something about I don't know whether it's the acoustics or the other sounds, the other ambient sounds that you get with that.
Yeah.
And the way it sounds very distant. You'd try and put a dog in there, you'd probably spend days trying to make it sound like it was outside 10 miles away.
Exactly.
Right.
You know.
And then you think about it too much.
Yeah. So how did music start for both of you? What got you into music in the first place? Were you brought up in musical homes?
You want to go first?
Yeah, I'll start first. I was not raised in a musical home or really in an artistic home. I came from the type of family that liked to have the radio on, and that was a really big influence on me. However, I didn't have that luxury of having a family who was artistic or pushed me artistically, or, you know, I've always wished I had a big brother who would have taken me to shows, and there was so much going on around where I grew up that I missed out on. Yeah. And for me, music happened very organically because I was such a huge fan of radio, and I was the type of child and then, you know, teenager that I just loved making something out of nothing. And the idea that I then was looking to be in a band was really something I felt deeply compelled to do. I had no idea how I was going to do it. I had no idea really if I could sing. I just knew I wanted to do it. And I was so inspired by so many artists. I pursued it because I had it in my heart. And there was no blueprint, and there was no one to hold my hand, and there was no, you know, parents or anything who was like, you know, you're so great, and like, you know, you're gonna do this, and you know, push me, and there was none of it. There was, you know, just the opposite. There was
That's
like,
really interesting.
Oh
yeah.
gosh, you know, you've definitely why would you want to do this? And you know, everyone in my family thought I was doing drugs, which I wasn't. I just, you know, I came from a very sheltered family, and they didn't understand it. They had no exposure, even though I grew up not too far outside of New York City. It was very insular. So what
was the connection there though between listening to radio and wanting to be in a band? Did you not just listen to songs? Were you interested in, and were you listening to like bands being interviewed as well? Did you?
No, I wasn't really listening to bands being interviewed. I was just, you know, completely compelled with radio and completely compelled with what was going to be served up to me next, and independent radio at the time. And I was so inspired by these artists. It was magical for me. It was, you know, this is really something that I can't get out of my head that I want to do. And I didn't have the confidence, or I didn't even know if I had the ability. I just knew I had the want, and that was there. And It was something, you know, it was pursuing that essence of magic in my life. And that's how I started. I you know, I wasn't, like I said, I wasn't guided in any way, shape, or form.
Who stood out for you in that early listening? Who stood out for you and went, so you thought, oh yeah, that's why I want to do this? Was there any particular artist?
I was, at the time, I was greatly influenced by bands like REM. Right. But I was really so compelled by like Robin Hitchcock and a lot of UK bands. I was really into like bands like The Wonder Stuff, and At the time, I was also really into Flying Cowboys by Ricky Lee Jones. I thought it was a beautiful record, but I didn't know what was really being presented to me. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know what I was doing. I just knew that I wanted to, I knew what it felt. I knew what I wanted felt like. That's all I knew. It was very, very primal in that way. So I just pursued it, and I just put one foot in front of the other. And I as cheesy as it sounds, it's like you're pursuing joy and you're pursuing magic and you're pursuing what makes sense to you. And that made sense to me. And not a lot of other things in the world did.
I love it. Ray, was it a similar experience for you, or was it a completely different?
I wouldn't say completely different, though I did have some musical background in the fact that my mom was a music teacher. And so I started playing, I'm the drummer in the band, so I started playing drums pretty early. But she did have a failed marriage. Her first husband was a traveling musician. So even though she encouraged me to play an instrument, she always discouraged me from being a musician, which was really funny. Like when I got really serious about it, she was, oh, that's not a life that you want for yourself.
Right. So the playing music was fine. The discipline of learning an instrument, fine. But this isn't a job that you're going to do.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
And so when she's passed away now, but when I finally was, in a touring band, I think she felt like, gosh, I really hope that you don't want to do this, I'm sure you're having fun, but, kind of discouraged it like that. Like, this is not something that you're going to take seriously.
Do you know what, though? I think a lot of parents have that with their children in lots of different things that their children want to do.
Right.
Because it's quite difficult, isn't it? I mean, I think a lot of the time parents go with a sensible head on and go, well, what's actually going to make you money, what's going to pay the bills, what's going to, what's going to be steady, even when like children are studying in school, it's like, why do you want to do that?
Yes, exactly.
Right.
I can remember my parents. I can remember at sort of going up into sixth form, ready to do my A levels, and it was like going to that meeting with my parents and my teacher, and it sat down and, what do you want to do? I want to be a poet. Seriously, that's what I said. I want to be a poet. I want to publish poetry. And the teacher that was looking at me just went, but that's not a job. So what job do you want to do?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, yeah, but and they're part of your head, and especially when you're invested, and with what you just said, Renee, about you feel that that's what you want to do, that's what you're passionate about, and you look at people and you go, well, they're doing that, right? These people are musicians and they're making money and they're doing that. So you look at it and you go, well, but that is a job because people make money and do it. But
right. But I think what a lot of parents don't understand is that there are varying levels of what success looks like. So as we know, there are millions of people who have day jobs and are artists and musicians and have another way of making money, but they are successful in their art and music. And there are many different levels of making money in music. And it's not all you're either on top 40 radio or you're a complete failure. As we all know, there's a lot in between that people make happen and make work.
Absolutely. I mean, I came in for some flack on one social media platform yesterday from someone who had a little bit of a go about these interviews. And
oh my gosh, can you dish? Like, what's the gossip? Like, just throw it in.
No. But basically what they were saying is that, why should you bother? Because, ultimately you're not at the top, so you haven't been successful.
Okay, wait a minute. You're sugarcoating it. Like, we want, just come on. You're giving us the nice version. We just want you to get raw.
Well, this is the nice version. It's the nasty version as well. So the point is that there's always going to be people out there that are going to say you're doing something, you haven't made it, because they will equate success only in terms of if it's international or national or whatever, and you're getting paid lots of money and you're at the top of your profession in terms of, I suppose, everybody knows your name. That's when you've made it, right? Yeah. That's not the reason. That's not necessarily the reason that everybody does everything, and that's not necessarily success, right? I call success, when it comes to something like this, if I produce stuff that people enjoy, and if I produce stuff which helps bands like yourselves, get more ears because you're producing great music, that's success. I don't really care about the rest of it. I mean, it'd be lovely. Don't get me wrong. It'd be lovely for it to be more successful, and all the time I'd love it to get more and more successful, but only in as much as that success has to drive in the right direction. Only if more people listen to it because it's doing the right thing. When it stops becoming what you want it to be, what you feel passionate about in the first place, then it's not the same thing, is it? And then it's not success anymore. Right. So
yes, because personal success is a completely different thing. And if you've gone against your what you think is right and what you think is cool and doing what you're doing, but you're a success in other ways in the outside world, does it really matter? Aren't you going to want to get back to yourself and your version of what success looks like?
Yeah,
I believe so.
Well, and also I would interject that the world is so splintered now that it used to be, everyone would know what the top 10 songs were or whatever. There was, the entire world would be singing those, that top 20 or something.
Yeah.
And now it's like everyone's got their own superstars. It's like everything is so spread out. It's a new world, really.
I totally agree. Do you know what? You're absolutely right, because I remember, my friend, when I was young, we were down Woolworths. I don't know whether you've ever heard of Woolworths, but Woolworths was a store over here. It sold inanimate plastic objects.
There used to be Woolworths here.
Yeah. It sold inanimate plastic objects that nobody really needed, but were cheap.
Yeah.
And hence its demise. But we used to go down there. You would get your bag of sweets. Your mum might let you in because they sold plimsolls for school, and then you would queue up to get your record. You would queue up to get your singles, and you would see the singles, and you would if you loved that single, you would watch each week as that single hopefully moved further up the place on that stand towards getting to the top. And quite often bands that I loved would start there and go that way. But I mean, it didn't really matter to me. It was a nice try.
Oh yeah.
You used to feel so good when they actually got into the top 40. You go, yeah, my band's there.
Yeah, exactly.
Next week number one. Next week off the top bargain bin over there. But it doesn't matter. But we knew what was in the charts, and we knew that system. But as you say, I mean, now I wouldn't have a diddly squat idea what was in the charts, and really, with the way that music's curated, popular music's curated on digital devices, etc. People just put a playlist on, and it's a conglomeration of. Even if you ask for like top 100 or whatever, it's not necessarily the top 100. It's the top 100 that have been curated for, and it will be a mishmash of stuff that people are trying to promote. Put money in behind.
Of that playlist.
It's the top 100 on that playlist.
On that playlist. Yeah, no, I know. It's maddening and also extremely freeing at the same time. I think we can all agree.
Yeah, absolutely. So the great thing for me about the digitalization of music is that everybody's got a voice now. Everybody can get their music out there. You know, it's not like the good old days when, you know, when I first started in the band or whatever, where you put it on a cassette and then you have to distribute.
Right, and, you know, and look at our faces. We're like, oh yeah, they do.
Yeah, and you
Music
exactly.
Yeah.
You know, you used to read in magazines, this is what you've got to do. You've got to send it to this record company and you've got to, you know, you read all the stories of actually, and I love reading. All I read is autobiographies of musicians, right? And, you know, you get the classic musicians, you hear the story of, you know, drove down there. I mean, if you've never read, for example, Johnny Marr from the Smiths, his autobiography, you know, and he actually takes the tape down to the office of Rough Trade. You will sign us. And then he's told to get out the building, and it's like follows the guy around, sneaks into the toilet and whatever. And it's like, you are going to listen to this tape.
I love that.
You know, which was great. It's a different world. It doesn't exist now.
It's like stories from the distant past, really.
Yeah.
You know, I read a lot of that stuff too, and it's that way. You know, because I'm an engineer, I'll read books written by engineers and stuff too. And it's always the same stuff where you're like, okay, but that would never happen now.
Right.
Like all of these stories,
Right.
I might as well be reading something from the 18th century or something, because the world has completely changed.
Yeah, now it's like reading pioneer stories. It's like you had a cassette and you went up into the building and you handed it to an A&R guy, like what, who, what, like, you know.
Yeah.
It's as we all know, it's extremely antiquated and seems like a fairy tale, really.
Exactly. And, you know, and bands nowadays, especially young bands coming up, it's really about, you know, they understand self-management much more than bands used to. And it's all about, you know, the selfie, and it's all about the marketing, and it's all about all of this other stuff. So tell me, let's talk about Elk City.
Let's get into it.
All right.
Let's talk about Elk City. So when did this relationship start? How did that start?
Elk City or us knowing each other?
Well, you start with that. How did you get to know each other?
We've known each other for longer than we haven't. I've known Ray since right after I got out of high school, and we both met because we were both looking to form a band. And we met in something called East Coast Rocker ads, pre-internet, right?
Right.
We're both looking to start a band. I'm there not knowing what I'm doing, but pursuing magic, as I talked about before. Ray is there being like, I've been in a band. I know what's going on. And we met, and I auditioned for his band. I still remember going to his house. There was a woman there. I still remember that her name was Sandy. I was like, oh, she's going to nail it. She was sitting on his sofa upstairs. I was waiting to go down and audition. And she had like an 8x10 black and white glossy, a headshot on her like lap. And I was like, oh, well, clearly like Sandy's a friggin' professional. So like, she's going to get the job. And I was like, Sandy's going to nail it. And guess what?
She didn't.
Well, apparently the black and white headshot glossy did not go far enough. I mean, I think Sandy was good, but anyway, it's all history now. So like Ray and we met and we started playing music together. And the very first night I met Ray, I started to do what I had never done before. And it was a really monumental moment in my life. Is the first night I played with Ray, because that was the first night I improvised music, which is really musically my first love. And at the risk of sounding cheesy, which I'm going to sound cheesy, whoever's watching this is cheesy, but I'm going to say it. It's my highest calling as a human being is improvising music the way I do. And it was the first time I did it was the night I met Ray, and I auditioned for his band. And we've worked that way ever since. And then Ray and I had a band called Melting Hopefuls for years. And we played all over New York, and we played on the Lower East Side, and we played with so many bands you've heard of. And it was crazy. It was like, and then we regrouped and things were changing, and we started Elk City. And I'm talking too much, so I'm going to let him take it away.
Well, that's fine. What I really want to know, Ray, for a start, what happened in that audition? What was the song for the audition? Did you come with a piece?
It was pretty amazing, and Renee is uniquely gifted in this way. I had started this band, and so it was a drummer, a guitar player, and a bass player, and we had written a bunch of basically instrumentals that we intended to be pop songs.
Yep.
And we would have these singers come down, and we would just start playing and let them audition over top of this material.
Yeah.
And just sing something. Sing what we're an original band. We're not doing covers. Just sing what you would sing. And this would confuse a lot of people. They would be about, what's the melody? What is the part? And we would be like, the part is what you want it to be. And this woman, Sandy, that she referred to, was like sort of a Broadway type of
8x10 glossy
singer.
headshot.
She was really good. Really good.
She
Great
was
voice.
She was amazing. By the way, I still remember this. You know how you remember it? She had on like the most epic brown suede fringed leather jacket. So she actually, I was like, oh yeah, she's even got the look. She's totally going to nail this. Why am I here?
And
she's got the look.
Yeah, she totally had the look. And she was like,
She
here's
was
my
like,
headshot, by the way.
Oh,
Yeah.
I don't know. I never kept in touch with her, but maybe she went on to a career in Broadway. But,
Yeah.
But anyway, Renee came down and started singing, and it sounded like music suddenly.
Right.
And when I say that, I mean like it. She was putting together a verse and a chorus, and the next verse and the next chorus, and it was all clicking together. Like the rest of us had played in enough bands that we were like, but wait, what is going on here? Like
Melly, when you're in that zone, if it clicks for you, and when you're in that zone, are you just hearing it all as it unfolds?
Yeah.
Yes,
and that is the way all these years later, the way we still write.
That's beautiful.
We'll just start the song that you've heard, That Someone, was written that way.
Yeah.
Where Renee's ability to form, someone will start playing something that sounds like a riff or chord changes or something, and she'll just like dive in as if like, oh, I got something. And she'll dive in with a verse, and then all of a sudden she's got a chorus. Yeah. And everyone else is sort of, I've always compared it to, it's like a musical conversation. And the way this conversation that we're having with you right now, if we tried to recreate it, it wouldn't flow as much.
No.
Music is very much that way too, where, you're reacting to what the other people are doing. And so you got to all be there in the moment, and you're just sort of writing it as you go. And Elk City's always been that way. It's like, if we have musicians who can't do that, and not everyone can, not everyone's comfortable doing that. They're like, well, you got to tell me what you want me to play. And if that's the case, then it's like, well, you're not the right person for this music.
But you know what? I absolutely love that as a story, because it kind of reminds me of my audition for when I joined a band. It's very, very, very similar, because
very cool.
I did sound for this band, and it was at a student gig, and I was doing sound for them. And afterwards, they came off stage and they said to me, "What do you think?" And I said, "It was great, but your singer's rubbish." And and they said, "Oh, right, okay." And I later found out that the singer was the girlfriend of one of the band. But
of course,
big surprise.
Don't put your foot in it. But they said, "What do you mean?" And I said, "Well, there's just no connection there between the singing and the music, right? Because the singing had some punch to it, but the music just the music had some punch to it, but the singing was just disconnected from it." And they said, "Well, we're looking for a new singer." And it was a female, so it was a female singer, yeah. But I said, "I'd like to audition." And the lady bloke's looking like, "But it's a female singer. We've got, So anyway, they said, "Come down." So we went down to the bunker in Sunderland, which is where they rehearse on a weekly basis. And literally they said, "Right, do you want to look at words?" I said, "No. Do you know what? I'd like you to just play, and I'd like to just sing."
Yeah, as we call it, you wanted to ride the lightning.
I want to ride the lightning. Absolutely. And that's exactly what happened,
Yeah.
you know, and I love that,
Right.
you know. Yeah. And
Yes.
I'd had that with my first band, because to me, that was the organic process. My first band was at 14. It was a group of friends. I kind of just sort of went into the singing thing because no one else was there to sing, and I just enjoyed the experience. I enjoyed the process of singing. So for me, that's how I'd always done it. That's how it has to be, because then you're creating something. In fact, sometimes the only thing, and I'm going to ask you this now, Renee, because because you're a kindred spirit in that sense, is one of the only things then when you play these songs back, once you've created it and you play it back, do you sometimes feel you want to then still continue to embellish and experiment and whatever, because
that's a very interesting question, and I don't hesitate to answer that for a second, because the answer is always no.
Right.
It's in the moment. It's what happened in the moment. I never come into a rehearsal or a jam session with lyrics or melodies. I let it happen in the moment. It's almost like I drive. I compare it to driving. It's
Cool.
almost like there's a strange audio video screen that I can kind of see in my mind. And this is a comparison. It's not really what's happening, but it is very much like driving, because I just take it where I feel it and where I go with it. And because it's raw and it's inspired, going back in and being like, well, let me add another part and let me embellish, unless the band is like, listen, we need another part. Can you improvise something on the spot? I have done that. But it is about being in the moment, and I still don't quite know what it is. I mean, I don't want to be like so self-absorbed and be like, actually, you know what, Graham, it's channeling. Like, but in a way it is.
Yeah.
It's a very deep connection between myself and myself. And I have no qualms in saying that. And people can be like, oh my God, she's like, whatever. But it's a thing, and I love it, and I have never taken it for granted, because it's such a deep, deep, deep love I have for doing it.
So Ray, does that then affect the way that you actually do recording? Do you effectively like record everything?
Yes.
Tape is always rolling. When I first met Ray, it was like a Walkman there was something that was always capturing the recording. And you look at through the years, various generations of recording devices, whatever they may be, one of those things was always with us and recording everything. And so,
I'm the captain of the AV club, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
Maybe not the V part, but definitely the A part. Yes. Well, I've learned that magic will happen if tape is it'll happen whether the tape is rolling or not. If it's not rolling, then you lost it forever. So you've got to have the tape rolling. And there have been, rehearsal spaces, maybe in Brooklyn or something, where a jam will start to happen, and I'll be like, oh, damn, I don't have tape. Nothing is recording this. But now that we have the studio, which I've always been an engineer, I just record it, especially now with hard drive space and everything, just record everything.
And phones. Yeah. And even if you're out somewhere now, obviously.
But I mean, a lot of the upcoming Elk City record, what you hear on the record, and even that Someone single that you hear, much of it is from that initial jam.
That's so cool.
We'll take the some of the vocal or some of the guitars, or because one of the guitar players in the band is also in a band called Luna, and he is very similar to Renee in the fact that he will just come up with the most amazing things in the moment, and and often maybe not quite get back there. You know, it's like tape has to be rolling. Renee can recreate what she does, but sometimes Sean will just be like, I don't even know what I was doing. Like I was on some other, you know, I have to. Like,
I know bands that video themselves as well, so that they can actually see what they're doing.
Right. Yeah. Right. That would make sense.
Yeah. Because it's you know, one of my favorite bands, Marillion, tend to now write that over the last, I don't know, 10 or so years, their writing process has pretty much been to jam.
Right.
And just record. I mean, it probably even more elongated than that, because they just jam and then record all the jams, and then Mike Hunter, who's their engineer, kind of sticks the jams together.
Yeah.
Right.
And then goes, so now that's a song. So now you kind of re-jam the jam.
Right.
That I've stuck together.
I mean, I think that's Elk City's biggest secret is like, hey guys, Elk City's a jam band. Like that's sort of like, I didn't just say that. I mean, I didn't say anything. I don't know what's going on, but I'm sorry. Do you have another question?
No, we've just uncovered the biggest secret in the history of music, which is, you know, there you go. You heard it first here.
That actually would make a great T-shirt. That I want that to be our band.
Oh, yeah. What? I think that's absolutely right. Just remember, and I tell this to all bands, Elk City is a jam band. That's the front. On the back, and I listen to Elk City on Spotify, but at the bottom, but I bought the T-shirt. Right?
Yes,
I like it.
Yeah, I'm trying to get as many bands as possible to do it, because then it doesn't matter about music being the currency anymore, right? You've bought the T-shirt, the T-shirt's paid for the album.
Yeah.
Right? That's fine. You can people can then feel happy about the fact that they're listening to this music in the ether on whatever, paying the money to you know, people that haven't made the music, and then that's fine, because they've bought the T-shirt for you. So right. and then they're advertising the fact that, you know, it's fine, you can go and listen to this music on whatever you like, but buy the T-shirt. There we go. And if we had
I want to ask you a question, Dan.
Yeah.
Because you asked Renee, and you're also a singer. When you improvise something, do you then have the inclination to go back and rework a few things, or say, you know what, I think that melody could be changed in the verse? Or
I have a great memory for melody. I have an absolutely dreadful memory for words.
Okay.
Right? Because I'm neurodiverse and I can't remember words very well. Right? So for me, I struggled with that a little bit. I had to write words down, and I would actually write notes on my hand as to what words were going to start me off, because otherwise I just wouldn't be able to remember them playing them live. But that's the only thing I would say. Sometimes when we were performing things, I'd get like 2 verses in and I'd go, do you know what, another set of words are coming to me now. So sorry folks, but you're going to hear a version of this song that you've not heard before, because I've got another set of words now.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's just the way it is. I totally get like when you were saying the driving, but the telly, almost like a teleprompt. Yeah.
Like, you know, you could I always can hear the entire song as it's happening, but I can also hear the production as it's happening, which is another level of weird, right? But this is true. Again, it's not like me being like, well, let me tell you about what I really do, Graham, and what, you know, my process. But it really, it's always been the way it's been. Like I hear the melody.
Totally get it. You're outside of yourself, looking at the, almost feeling the process from outside of yourself at the same time as being within the process.
It's almost like there's a radio happening in my mind at all times, and it's playing only original music that no one else has ever heard except for me. Yeah. So
that's really cool. I did think for a minute before it got much better, and you came out with that absolutely amazing story about how it all came together. I did think that you turned up and you'd sung a Wonder Stuff song, which was where I was going to.
I still love them.
Yeah, that was a great band.
Just so great, like, right?
Yeah, I just it just for me that would have been a great story as well. You turned up and go, don't you think it's funny that nothing's what it seems when you're not looking forward? And then that would have been great, right?
Right, and I want to call the band like the Eight-Legged Groove Machine.
Oh, you would have.
No, I wouldn't. No, I wouldn't.
Yeah.
But I was just so into that stuff and all of that UK stuff, and obviously stuff here. But yeah, I mean, we are, like everyone we know is a musician. I mean, we're just like rabid music fans, and it's very important that everyone in the band is an artist in their own individual sense, but for me, it's very important to mention that it's always about what's the highest good for the song. How is the song being served? How to honor the song, because that's, as we come together and make music this way, that's paramount for all of us. It's not an individual thing. It's really working together to make something bigger than the parts.
Yeah. No, absolutely. So now what we've done over the past 40 minutes is we've talked about how you make your music. We've talked about what music means to you. And what we've done is we've created within anyone that's been listening to this or will be listening to this, we've created this now desire to go and find out what that sounds like when somebody just allows themselves to let go and sing what's surrounding them, right? So you'll now find that when this goes live, that there'll be a flood of people wanting to go somewhere to listen to your music and hear how Renee and Ray work their interweaving magic, and it all comes together. So where do people go to find that?
The usual places. Our music is on all streaming platforms, including Spotify and Apple Music. I believe it's on Qobuz. It's the music is streamable on YouTube as well. And then Bandcamp, of course. We do not have physical product for the upcoming record yet. That might change. Right now, we haven't gotten that far with thinking about that.
Okay.
Although we might.
It's such a backlog for vinyl.
Yeah, that's the only thing, and there's such a long wait for vinyl.
I know some of the American bands that I've interviewed lately. They said that, and then I've given them the addresses of some new music record plants in England, and some of them have shifted their orders to England. So there you go. Maybe that's an answer.
What's
That's a great idea.
what's the typical wait time in England these days?
I don't know, but ask if you know the guys from Seal Party. They've inquired of late,
Okay.
so you could speak to them and they'll let you know, because there's a new record plant that's opened up near Manchester because there's such a demand.
Yeah, it's crazy. Well, in the US, it's about 10 months right now.
Wow, that is silly.
You really have to plan way in advance to get vinyl, And
if you have a plan for vinyl, obviously it's understood that people will not get that anytime soon.
No, what someone really needs to do is, well, twofold. One, but I don't know whether you know this or not. I wouldn't know. I'm not gemmed up on this. But can you actually make vinyl out of old vinyl? Because that would be great. If we could find a way of
the actual vinyl, it's not that, it's the plants, the actual machines.
It's just a lack of the machines, right?
Right.
Okay. Well, what we need is some of these big people that keep threatening to spend money on things like Twitter and other things, just to put some money into vinyl machines instead.
We need to have a pressing plant in this facility here.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Much like Third Man Records. I mean, the whole thing with Jack White.
Yeah, did you see Jack White made a video begging the major labels to open their own damn plants,
Yeah, totally right. And, I think, look, here's a good idea. Elon, whilst you're going around the world putting charging stations here, there, and everywhere. Why don't just put some record plants down as well? That would be great. Because actually not everybody's going to be able to drive in the future because it's going to become so expensive. So they're just going to stay at home and listen to music. That's a prediction. So your money's safe there, I feel.
Yeah, it's a good investment. It's a sound investment.
It's a sound investment. Yeah. Absolutely. That's what we need. We need some people with some serious money to go, do you know what? Going to invest in some record plants. There we are. Let's make some vinyl. Let's make it happen. That would be good. Richard Branson could perhaps sell a few aeroplanes off and go back to vinyl. That would be good, wouldn't it? Why not? So Bandcamp, though, that's a really good one to go to because you get some money from that, and also you get to know who's actually listened to your music there as well,
right.
which is nice.
I love that about it. Yeah.
Yes.
So go to Bandcamp, don't go to any of the others, because then these people can keep in touch with you, and it can become an organic process between you and them. And if you pay enough money, then they might even turn up at your house at Christmas and sing you a song. It all depends, and it's fine because they just make it up on the spot.
I was going to say that.
Yeah, there we go. So it'll be an absolute festive treat. But also, last question, which I ask everybody, and this may be a hard one or an easy one for you, I don't know. If there's any artist, dead or alive, or it could be an artist or it could be a producer or someone like that you would love to have worked with or work with, who would it be?
Oh gosh.
Wow. Okay.
You know what? I'm going to go with the first person that came to mind. It would be amazing to work with Michael Stipe.
Wow. Yeah.
I mean, just because I feel like he would be, and this sounds pretentious, but look at kindred spirit in a way.
Yeah.
Like, I think we would understand each other.
Yeah. Well, I kind of have like a split, but I know I can only give one. I would work with Dusty Springfield because we could also talk about gowns. So we could talk about the clothing and everything. I really also want to I can't give more. All right. I would also want to work with Captain Beefheart, but Dusty Springfield works out. I mean, she wins out because we would talk about like dresses and stuff like that. But
you did say dead or alive. So, I mean, that does open up a whole other.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it does. Yeah. You could have even picked dead or alive, but it's Dusty Springfield, Michael Stipe. Right? I mean, both of those great, right?
How am I gonna get through? How am I gonna get through?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? I know. Yeah. We could trade clothes. I know, it'd be so good.
Yeah, look, and what a voice,
right?
Amazing.
I know. Do you ever watch? Sometimes I just watch those black and white video clips of her performing live all over the UK and everywhere. And it's so inspiring just to watch her for so many reasons. It's fantastic.
Well, those are great choices. Thank you very much for joining me
today
to talk a little bit about music. Do go and check out Elk City. And I will keep in touch, and we will, as you develop and as you put more stuff out there, we may see you again sometime.
We would love that
in the future of life and music itself. And there we go. But until then, thanks for joining me, Ray.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Speak to you soon. Bye for now.